What about now? What about now? What about now? What have I just said? I'll reiterate what I've just said. Thank you for pointing that out. Appreciate it. Um, it might have been me. It might have been me. I'll shuffle the little sounds around, and I'll unmute and mute some things. We'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll get it there in time. But what was I saying? Down into turn one is where it's going to get tasty. They've taken some of the little sausage curbs out of turn one. So it used to be that there was some little curbs on the outside of turn one, and it meant that you couldn't really go wide there, but you now can. You now basically can go wide at turn one without having to damage the underfloor of your car, and therefore they're now watching and monitoring track limits at turn one. Hey, we can hear me now. All good. Apologies, it might have been me. Probably me. But we're ready. We're raring to go. And yeah, let's quickly run through qualification for those of you guys that missed it, because it was a late one last night. 10 o'clock, obviously, before the qualifying even got underway. So I don't blame you for disappearing off to bed if you're this side of the globe. But we did end up with Hamilton and Verstappen on our front row. Verstappen just getting the edge and getting onto pole position as well. And I think this is the way around that makes it a little bit more exciting for me, because Hamilton is going to have the bit between his teeth, right? And Verstappen is going to have to be defensive, especially down into turn one, where the track gets very, very narrow very, very quickly, and Hamilton is on the inside line. So even though Hamilton is going to be slightly behind Verstappen off the line, if he can get a good start, he is up the inside into turn one. It'll be interesting to see, will he try and keep that inside line? Will he be able to push Max wide and get a better run down into turn 2 and 3? We'll have to wait and see, but these are all questions that need to be answered, and I'm hoping that they're going to be answered in a spectacular fashion. Then we've got Sergio Perez with his best qualifying for what seems like forever. He has got himself up into third spot there in the Red Bull, and Red Bull really needed a good performance from him too, because he's now up into third place, and again, now down into turn one. What can Sergio Perez do from there? Will he KO Hamilton into turn one? Antonio asks in the chat. I mean, I hope not. I hope we can get some good, clean racing. Although we've seen Bottas obviously take out Verstappen. When was that? In Budapest, in Hungary. So maybe Perez will return the favour. And also take out a Mercedes at the beginning of a Grand Prix. It's going to be very close. Although they're talking about now obviously the dirtier side of the track, and the fact that, the grip for Hamilton isn't going to be too great off the line. We've seen that Hamilton's starts recently have not been great. Like, he does generally lose places on the first couple of laps. Like, we've seen Hamilton drop quite a few positions over the last few races when it comes to the starting grid. So it'll be very, very, very interesting. Like, I am super excited for the start of this race. I don't think I've been excited for a start of a race in a very long time. Like, just having these two together on the front row. Obviously, last time we had Hamilton with an engine change and obviously a grid penalty. We've had Verstappen with a grid penalty as well in Russia. So, like, now we've finally got both of them on the front row. There's 6 races left. There's 6 points between them. And my goodness me, I just cannot wait. I cannot wait. I'd love to know your opinions in the chat, though. Who do you think is going to be in the lead of this race after the first lap? After the first lap, who do you think is going to be leading this race? It could easily be Verstappen. It could easily be Hamilton. Could be Perez. Could even be Leclerc, depending on how it goes down in turn one. As I said, it's quite a hairpin in terms of where we're at. I'll actually pop up the trackboard for you. So if you look down into turn one, just at the top of that graphic there, it is a very tight turn one. And that's why they've taken out the sausage curbs, because they're worried, obviously, that's going to cause damage for a lot of drivers. And it has on a lot of the other races that have gone on this weekend. We'll talk about the W Series a little bit later on as well. Got a lot to talk about in this half an hour before the race. But yeah, this is the main talking point I want to get your opinion on first is Hamilton versus Verstappen. Who's going to be leading the race after one? Congrats on 4K. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. Like, I'm absolutely buzzing for 4K. It's been a very slow grind to 4K. I've felt. I don't think it has, but maybe it's just because I've been like working really hard, like outside of YouTube as well. Obviously, I still have had a long stint at work. It feels like over the past 8 weeks or so. So it's just been a long time coming. But 4K, obviously the goal for the end of the season, well, we set ourselves the goal of 1K by the end of the season. We've absolutely blown that out of the water, and I cannot thank all of you enough. But we're getting towards 5K before the end of the season. We've got 2 months and 6 races left to go, including this one today. But obviously, hang on, which one? If you look here, 4,000 subscribers on the channel already. If you haven't subscribed, now is the time. Get in before we're in the first 5K. Can you imagine in a few years' time when you can say to people, oh yeah, I knew that guy. I was in the first 5K subscribers. Get yourself in there. Make sure you're in. I need this fit. I thought I'd go Lotus. I'm feeling Kimi Räikkönen, Romain Grosjean obviously isn't on the track this time out. But, you know, I'm giving Kimi Räikkönen some energy. You know, back in the days when he was on the podium for Lotus and I was going mad as a child. I'm hoping for that. Obviously, Lotus not quite helping Norwich to the results that I'd have wanted. But we're hoping to see. As we're talking to Carlos Sainz now, he's got the ice packs on. It's going to be very, very warm in Austin. And they're talking about the degradation of the tyres. Because it is so warm, I think this lends itself to Sergio Perez, you know. He's obviously qualified in 3rd place. And I think the fact that there's going to be high temperatures, really high tyre degradation, I think it really plays into Sergio Perez's hands today. He could go for a strategy that is a bit out of the box. If there isn't a safety car or a red flag or anything like that, he could really jump up these rankings and really put himself into contention for the win today. Obviously, not quite the Mexican Grand Prix. That is next up, but I don't think he'll mind winning in the US instead of Mexico. There's a big Mexican contingent for him at the race today. Won't be surprised if the first lap ends in a yellow flag. Yeah, I think there's probably going to be incidents down into turn 1. It's going to get very close very quickly. Lando, of course. Lando Norris. Where would Lando have to... Lando started in 7th. He'd have to make up 6 places if he's going to be in the lead on the first lap. But I would absolutely love to see it. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure. McLaren don't look quite as good as Ferrari, or at least in qualifying. Hopefully in the race, we're going to see some battles between those. Let's sort of run down the rest of the grid then. As I said, Sergio Perez starting in 3rd place, I think puts himself in a really lovely spot for Red Bull. Leclerc is going to start beside him, again on the dirty side of the track, just behind Lewis Hamilton, is going to start in 4th, and both Ferraris looking really quick throughout all the free practices and in qualifying yesterday. Carlos Sainz starts in 5th place, as we're looking at Ross Brawn on the Sky Sports coverage. Love Ross Brawn. Get him involved. Get him back in Formula 1. I know he's a managing director, but like, get him back in a team. I just want to see him every weekend. Where were we? Carlos Sainz starting 5th. Daniel Ricciardo out-qualifying his teammate Lando Norris for the first time in what feels like a little while, actually. Apart from Spa, since the summer break, I'm not sure if Ricciardo has outperformed Norris in qualifying. But Ricciardo there, starting in 6th. He's going to be right beside Carlos Sainz. He's going to be edging towards those Ferraris down into turn 1. Carlos is on a different strategy. Yeah, he's on the softs compared to... Oh, you literally said that. He's on the softs and Charles is on the mediums. Obviously, Ferrari playing it safe, going for both strategies. And either one could play off for them. And hopefully they can... I think Ferrari are edging towards podium positions today, aren't they? I think if you're a Ferrari driver, you're sort of thinking to yourself, I've got a really good opportunity at podium today, if something does happen up front between those two. So they'll be having a really good run at a podium. We've also got Lando Norris. He's not one to shy away from a podium this season, in 7th place. Going to start behind his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. And he'll, again, want to get in front of his teammate. He'll want to get in front of those Ferraris if he can. We've got Gasly starting in 8th place for the AlphaTauri. Gasly just always finds a way to qualify in and amongst these big boys at the front, doesn't he? Usually it's 6th place for Gasly. Today it's 8th. And he's going to be starting just beside Lando Norris. Behind him, though, the Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas. Another ICE for Bottas means that he's starting in 9th place. Qualified 4th yesterday, gets a 5th-place penalty. So Bottas is going to be starting in 9th and has got a lot of work to do from 9th place. I think Gasly is going to be tricky for him. If he can't get past Gasly in the first couple of laps, it's going to be a long slog for Bottas in there. Your celebs are disgraceful, America. I mean, I just don't think they know who Martin Brundle is, to be honest. I think that's the real issue that most of these celebrities have got. Sonoda starting in the top 10. Let's see if Sonoda can pick up some points today. It'd be nice for him to pick up some points in the AlphaTauri. If you didn't see the Mr. and Mrs. with him and Gasly, it was absolutely hilarious. So highly recommend that piece of content that was put together by the Sky guys, as we're seeing big Shaq with Christian Horner, and Christian Horner just is like a tiny little hobbit next to him, bless him. Yuki Tsunoda starting in 10th place, though. Talking about tiny little people, Yuki Tsunoda will want to pick up points for AlphaTauri, and actually AlphaTauri have a real opportunity here today to gain some points on the Alpines, because Ocon is starting just outside the points in 11th, but his teammate Alonso starting all the way down the grid. Giovinazzi actually starts in 12th place. Amazing opportunity for Giovinazzi to pick up some points too. Again, if something goes wrong for some of the big boys in front of him, or if he can get a strategy working for him towards the end of the Grand Prix. Lance Stroll, I think, was disappointed yesterday in qualifying. Didn't manage to make it out of Q1. Has a wonderful helmet this weekend. But Latifi is going to start next to him in 14th. Raikkonen starts in 15th. And I'm giving some Raikkonen energy in the Lotus apparel today. Mick Schumacher in 16th, Mazepin 17th. It seems strange that Mazepin isn't starting in 20th. That seems fairly consistent, but it's mainly because Vettel, Alonso, and Russell behind him have all taken engine penalties. Obviously, Vettel and Russell in the Mercedes group as well, and lots of talk about these Mercedes power units and whether they'll be able to hold up for the rest of the season. Vettel and Russell not taking too many chances and changing theirs. Alonso also taking an engine penalty after in free practice there was quite a lot of, was it oil in the end or water? I wasn't quite sure, or like coolant that was spilling out of the underside of his car. So decided to change up his power unit and make sure he can get himself to the end of the race. Let's see what the chat is saying. But once the Grand Prix, I don't have to be up at 5 a.m. Yeah, it's nice for you guys in America. I actually quite like it in the UK too. I think sort of later or further across in Europe, it's getting later and later for them, isn't it? But it's quite a nice time for the UK. 8 o'clock in the evening, you know, just have a little bit of dinner, get yourself settled down, get yourself a lovely drink, watch some Formula One until the evening comes to a close. Lotus merch looking dope. Thank you, Manev. Appreciate that. Cool jacket, bro. It's actually just a t-shirt. I've got an undershirt underneath. It's getting cold, lads. It's getting cold. It was coolant. Thank you, Joey. Yeah. I couldn't remember if it was oil or coolant in the end. Here we go. It's 15 minutes left. Looking at Max Verstappen now. I'd love to know, though, it's going to be so close. I'm going to pop up my predictions. They're absolutely shot to bits, to be honest with you. I've gone for... Actually, Hamilton and Verstappen could possibly come to fruition. I went for Alonso third. I don't know why. I was just feeling Fernando Alonso. I was like, this track is kind of one of the ones that might suit him. And Alonso is the only driver in the top 10 that hasn't got a podium so far this season. So I was like, maybe this is the one for Alonso. You know, getting towards the crunch end of the season, it's going to be less and less likely that he's going to pick up a podium. But no, it's not going to happen, is it? Starting from 19th, he's going to have to do something incredible. I also went for Ricciardo best drive. Could happen. He's starting in and amongst that pack of Ferraris and McLarens. So we'll have to wait and see if Ricciardo can, maybe bust out a podium or something and pick up driver of the day. Russell, my wild card, starting right from the back of the grid, and I'm expecting we're going to see some good, hard driving from Russell as well. And Perez struggle. Let's not talk about Perez struggle, all right? I do these predictions on a Wednesday, and unfortunately it's not. Taking a break from my maths degree to watch Formula 1 this evening. Claire, that is exactly what you should do. You need a little break from a maths degree. I've done one myself. They are a lot. you need a good few breaks from a maths degree, to be honest with you, because they are a heavy, heavy, heavy one. But I hope your maths degree is going well. I don't know how many years you'll be into it now. Like 2, 3? God. A lot. But yeah, I hope your maths degree is going good. Traditions. What's a tradition? No idea. Winter is coming. It is most certainly coming in the UK. Most certainly coming in the UK. If no crash at the first corner, drinks on the house for everyone at the chat. So is that in general or just between Hamilton and Verstappen? Because I think there will be. I don't think Hamilton and Verstappen will come together. I know there's been a lot of talk about it. And they do generally come together if they're on the same piece of track. Like, you only got to look at Silverstone and Imola and every single other race they've been anywhere near each other. But, I think they're probably good enough drivers that they'll get through the first couple of corners. I think if they're going to come together, it'll probably be later on in the track. Possibly, sort of later on. If you look at the track itself, there's a very long straight sort of towards the end of the second sector down into a sharp left-hander. So I feel like that's possibly the point where we could see a collision. Because if Hamilton is going to go for a move, it's going to be down into turn 1 or with that straight line speed advantage that he does have down into that sort of turn towards sector 3. I think it's going to be in and around there. I think Mazepin incoming. Who was your first ever favourite Formula 1 driver? Jenson Button, my good friend. I started watching... I mean, you could call me a glory hunter, to be fair. I started watching Formula 1 the season before Brawn won a championship. So what was that? 2008 was when I started watching Formula 1. I only started in September. Oh, okay. You're only in your first year. For some reason I thought you were in your second year. I'm just wishing my life away. It's already so tough. Yeah. But I agree. I've been there. I've been there, and yeah, it's hard. Could be the first person I've ever heard not slaughter the US anthem. Bravo. He's pretty good. And Ali, congrats on 4 subs. 4,000 subs. 4 subs. Congrats on 4 subs. Thank you. Appreciate it. Congratulations on 4,000 subscribers. It's still surreal to me that this is even a thing. But yeah, we're going. And to be fair, we had a little celebration on Twitch earlier. I was playing some Rocket League, watching the Man United Liverpool game. 5-0 Liverpool. Thank you. It's the kind of day I wanted, to be honest with you. Today's just got better and better. This morning, we hit 4,000 subscribers. The afternoon, we got a Liverpool win against Manchester United. Not just a win, but an absolute trouncing of Manchester United. And now, we're going to get a McLaren podium. Possibly a win. Say it very quietly, but I'd quite like Lando Norris to get a win. That would sort of culminate this whole day for me. It would be very nice. But it's very unlikely, but it could happen. Did you watch Nico Rosberg and Jenson Button's interview? Yes, I did. I watched it on Friday evening, and I thought it was quite insightful, actually. I didn't realise how much in common those two drivers had. They obviously both started at Williams, both had a stint as Lewis Hamilton's teammate. I think they both got their same win in the same track or something. I can't remember now. There was lots of things in common between the two, and it was lovely to have them both have a little chat with each other. I think Nico Rosberg is so underrated as a pundit and as a content creator. I know he was absolutely incredible as a driver, and I'm kind of gutted that he's not still in Formula 1, because he'd definitely still be on this grid, right? If he didn't retire after 2016, he'd by far and away still be on the grid. Possibly not with Mercedes. I don't know if Toto Wolff would have continued on with that partnership of Hamilton and Rosberg for this long without aging by about 1,000 years, but he would definitely still be on this grid, and he'd still be doing a wonderful job in Formula One if he'd have kept going. But he's decided, to take a step away, and I do really love Nico Rosberg's YouTube content. Joker, hello mate, how we doing? Welcome back. We're getting ready. We're 12 minutes away from the start of the race for me, and I just want to get going. As I said at the beginning, I am so excited for the start of this race. I can't think of a race where I've been this excited in a long time. I just think that everything is set up for this to be crazy. Like, everything is set up in this race for this to go absolutely bonkers. And 2021 has given us race after race after race of just pure, unadulterated quality. So, got my Norris top on, praying for a good result today. I've got my McLaren jumper in the post. There you go. For the birthday. The birthday's coming up. Decided, what do I want for my birthday? I'm going to treat myself. Going to get myself a McLaren jumper. That's my thought process. War today, says Roland. I hope so. It's going to be big, isn't it? It's going to be Hamilton and Verstappen every lap, every corner. Between those two, it's just going to get closer and closer and closer. Be interesting to see if Hamilton doesn't get ahead, what kind of strategy Mercedes go for. Because we've seen Hamilton switch up tyres earlier than expected and absolutely fly around some of these tracks recently, haven't we? So it'd be interesting if he does go for the undercut and how Red Bull respond. Like, I think personally we're going to see a lot of tyre degradation today. And Hamilton, as a man who continually is annoyed about tyre degradation, don't know if this is the one for him, but we're going to have to wait and see. Crash today. I hope not. At least not between Hamilton and Verstappen. I know that that's what everybody's sort of been pointing towards, the fact that they are on track next to each other, and it usually ends in somebody, if not both of them, in tears. But if there's a crash today, I hope that it's not Hamilton and Verstappen. I hope that it's maybe a little bit further on down the grid. Maybe like Stroll with somebody, or I don't know. I was going to say Tsunoda, but I'd quite like Tsunoda to get some points. DC is the one I feel most for not winning a championship. Yeah, David Coulthard, bless him. He did try. He was in an era with Michael Schumacher, so it was pretty tricky for him. Like, it's a bit like the drivers over this last era, over this last 6-7 years. We can talk about lots of drivers that maybe, if Lewis Hamilton wouldn't have been around, might have picked up championships, but it's just been Lewis Hamilton every single year, isn't it? It's just been one of those. It's just been one of those eras where we have had complete domination from Mercedes, but we never know. 2022 is coming up. Should we talk about 2022, actually? And the W Series a little bit, because obviously Twitter is known for pushing the boundaries of what is expected. But Twitter, I saw Jamie Chadwick from the W Series, obviously getting the win today, winning the championship here in Austin. And it went down to the wire in the W Series as well. I'm not like a huge W Series follower. I sort of watch the highlights here and there where I can, but she has just been incredible. Back-to-back championships, W Series again. And I was thinking to myself, there's still one slot left in this 2022 drivers setup. Obviously, we know Hamilton and Russell are going to be together at Mercedes. We know Verstappen and Perez are going to stay together. Leclerc, Sainz, Norris, Ricciardo, Alonso, Ocon, Gasly, Tsunoda, Vettel, Stroll, Latifi, Albon. But there is one spot left. And would it be crazy if Jamie Chadwick got it? Like, I know that obviously there's lots of other drivers in contention for it, and there's lots of drivers from F2 that maybe deserve it a little bit more. Formula E, we're talking about De Vries, obviously. But I don't know. I just think maybe a test seat. A test seat seems more likely, right? But I think we're likely to see Jamie Chadwick in a Formula One car at some point next year. Whether it will be in the actual championship, fighting for points? Probably not. But maybe a test here or there? I'd love to know your opinion on it. What do you think? Does she deserve that opportunity to have a test in Formula One and see what she can do in a Formula One car? Because personally, I think so. I think one of these teams should give her an opportunity and just, give her a chance. Give her a test. Possibly even before the season. Why can't she be a test driver? Where do they do the testing now? In Bahrain, isn't it? Why not send her over to Bahrain with one of the teams? I don't see why not. I don't see why not. And I was very impressed with her drive today. Obviously, because she won the championship, she gets 15 super license points as well. So I can't think of a reason why we shouldn't give her a test, at least. You know what I mean? Which team do you reckon are most likely to give Jamie Chadwick a test? It seems like quite a Mercedes thing to do, doesn't it? Or maybe even Aston Martin. Feels like something that they might do. What time does the race start? The race starts in 6 minutes for me. There is a slight delay on the stream, so probably even closer to that time for you. It would ruin her career if she was given an F1 seat just because she's the best woman. She's quick, but she's got to beat... She's not going to beat any fellas. Formula Carl. I don't know. I think that's maybe why I've sort of edging toward... I've seen lots of people on Twitter saying that she should have a Formula One seat. And I err on the side of, let's give her a test and see how she does. Like Zhao got a test earlier on in the season, and now he's being linked to a Formula One seat because he did fairly well in the Alpine. Obviously, we see drivers come in for testing quite often. And I think, giving her a test, considering she's a 2-time champion, doesn't seem too silly to me. Doesn't seem too silly. But that's just my take. That is just my take. We are edging towards though. Actually, I'd quite like to know as well, after we've seen them in qualifying, who's your favourite helmet from this weekend? I think mine is still Yuki Tsunoda's. I do really like Yuki Tsunoda's. And controversially, I don't like George Russell's, and I don't really like Mick Schumacher's helmet for this weekend either. And then I'm sort of indifferent. Oh, sorry. I'm indifferent about Daniel Ricciardo. No, Daniel Ricciardo's I quite like. Who's the other one I was indifferent about? Actually, I do think she beat Nikita. Yeah. Who was it that I was indifferent about? There was 2 that I didn't like. George Russell's I didn't like. Mick Schumacher's I didn't like. Yuki Tsunoda's and Lance Stroll's I absolutely adore. Whose was I indifferent about? I can't remember now. Give her Mazepin's seat. I mean, might as well. Might as well. It's not going to much use. I mean, considering what was he called on Twitter the other day? Yesterday, someone I think called him a moving bollard. So Nikita Mazepin still not getting the love from the Formula One community. My favourite helmet is Valtteri Bottas's. Valtteri Bottas's is very in the middle for me. I really, really like Yuki Tsunoda's. Yuki Tsunoda's by far and away the standout one. But yeah, Valtteri Bottas's is quite nice actually. I like the colour scheme on Valtteri Bottas's and like the sort of pattern that he's got going on. But I'd love to know, who's your favourite helmet? How are we doing on the stream? We've got 16 likes on the stream. Can we get that to 20 before we start? We've got a couple of minutes. Can we boost that up to 20 likes? If you haven't left a like and you're watching, just drop it. Doesn't cost you anything. It's right there. Also, links to everything down below. So if you talk, I'm talking a lot about Twitter, mainly because I've been on Twitter quite a lot this weekend. So if you want to follow me over on Twitter, is linked in the description down below. Instagram as well. I've started using a lot of Instagram stories. So if you want to keep up with the behind the scenes on the stream, there's a link to that in the description. Patreon as well, and Freetrade. All of it linked down below. Feel free to check them out during the race. Are you wearing a racing suit? I wish. Now that would be a hell of a thing to do. Ferry, I like that idea. I'm not wearing a racing suit. I'm just wearing a Lotus t-shirt with like a thermal underneath because I was a little bit cold earlier on today, and no heat before trick or treat in the UK. But but now I wish I was wearing a racing suit. I think that'd be one hell of a move to wear a racing suit on one of these streams. One day. One day. Now you've put that idea into my brain. I could definitely see myself doing something that outlandish. Whose racing suit would I want to wear though? I quite like the AlphaTauri racing suit, the sort of blue sort of cut that they've got in. I don't know. Who else has got a good racing suit that I could have? First race you've watched, Charlie. Well, welcome to the stream, mate. Welcome to Formula One. You're in for an absolute banger, I reckon. If you want to go back and watch, I mean, just go back and watch this season. This season's absolutely phenomenal. And also, if you haven't watched Drive to Survive, as much as people say that like you're a plastic fan if you get into Formula One watching Drive to Survive, they're talking nonsense. Drive to Survive is excellent and one of the best ways to get into Formula One. There's 3 seasons of it, more than recommend you wearing one. Will we be able to watch the race over this stream? No, Floppy, because that is illegal. That is an illegal thing to do. One day wear a helmet for the stream. 10k special stream with a race suit. How much is a Formula One race suit? I'm gonna Google this right now. How much is a Formula One race suit? I reckon I could get like a Halloween race suit. We should have done a Halloween special, but there isn't a race next weekend. How much is a Formula One race suit? McLaren Formula One Monaco Racing printed suit. Oh, it's only 100 quid on eBay. It's quite a bit, isn't it? They're printed though. I don't know what that means. Printed suit. So it's not an actual racing suit. It's more like what are they called? Like Charlie wears in Always Sunny, like Green Man. I've watched some highlights. Yeah, mate, get involved. Like, just watch as much Formula One as you can. I feel like when I first got into Formula One as a kid, if there was something like Drive to Survive or YouTube where it was like loads and loads of content, I'd have been well into that. So like, just watch loads of stuff. Have you got a favorite driver yet, Charlie? That's what we also need to know. I would like to. I'd love to get a helmet. I'd quite like to get a helmet just to like put in the background. Eventually, when we get to like a full sort of more open studio rather than a corner of a room, I'd love to have a little a helmet, and we'll definitely have. Yeah, that's what I think. I think it's going to be one of those like morph suits, which I mean could still work. We'll see. We'll see. I'll try. I'll try and get a morph suit for some point on the stream. Here we go then. We are on the formation lap, by the way. I should have probably said. I got distracted by trying to find a race suit. It probably won't look as vintage as an actual... Oh, God, no. It won't look anywhere near as good as an actual Formula One suit. But I imagine an actual Formula One suit to buy is probably like 10 times the price, if not 20 times the price. Like, it would not surprise me if to buy like a race suit with like a Formula One style race suit was $2,000. I'd be like, yeah, that is probably what I'd expect. I think it's the basic option, but it has to be Hamilton, not a basic option, mate. It's whoever you have a connection with, go for it. Hello, Eric. Will I show the race itself? Again, people want to watch this race illegally. Just pay like £3. Just watch it. Lots of Hamilton fans in the chat. I mean, I got in a lot of trouble for my video the other day because I said that Hamilton and Mercedes were clever, and I said that Verstappen might fall behind, and that got a lot of dislikes. Search Niki Lauda. Yeah, Niki Lauda is a legend. Oh, watch Rush, right? Watch Rush. Formula One film. And Senna. And Schumacher. There's quite a few different Formula One films and documentaries that are out there that you can watch. Here we go then. We are coming towards the start of this race. We are going to have the guys line up on the grid. Here we go. Verstappen takes his place. Hamilton does too. Perez also takes his slot on the grid. A little bit of traffic. It is quite a long run down to the start line, although it's quite a short run to the finish line. Cheapest place to watch, probably just the Formula One. It depends what country you're in. James Hunt, James Hunt versus Niki Lauda. That's why you should watch Rush. Watch Rush. It's very, very good. Yeah, if you've got a VPN, you can watch the US ESPN broadcast for free. Max will win. Love that from Eric. Here we go. And we're just waiting now. Alonso takes his spot. George Russell just behind him. Takes his place. Green flag is away. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And we're away then. Let's see what happens down into turn 1. Hamilton looks like he's got a pretty good start. Verstappen comes across to cover him and pushes him over towards the pit lane. But Hamilton is going to have the inside line going down into turn 1. Max Verstappen's gone wide. Lewis Hamilton's going to keep this lead. He goes through, and so does Sergio Perez. It's not gone well for Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez, though, does back out and lets his teammate through. Hamilton leads this race. Max Verstappen drops a place. Daniel Ricciardo having a little battle with Carlos Sainz, it looks like, too. Let's see who's going to come out on top between these Ferrari and McLaren cars. Carlos Sainz going wide around the corner, but gets the inside line there. And Daniel Ricciardo is going to be chasing him down. Hamilton, though, takes the lead of this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen did everything that he could, but Hamilton got a very, very good start off the line. And a wonderful drive down into turn 1. Max Verstappen did everything he could, but Hamilton, as I said, on the inside line off of the start line. Daniel Ricciardo also all over the back of the Ferrari up alongside him. So's Lando Norris. They go 3 abreast down into turn 2. Oh, God. Lando Norris, I think, has got past Daniel Ricciardo, but Carlos Sainz battles back, and Carlos Sainz keeps the place. And McLaren, they're going to come together. No, Daniel Ricciardo manages to retake that place. And Lando Norris gets back in front of him. Oh my goodness me. No, it's Daniel Ricciardo still. Daniel Ricciardo holds on to 6th place. It's getting very tasty between, and Daniel Ricciardo finally gets past Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz drops down, and now the former teammates. Oh no, Lando Norris goes super wide. Is he going to lose the place to Gasly? Not quite. Oh, it's Tsunoda. Hang on, what's happened there? So Tsunoda is in 8th place, Bottas 9th, and Gasly in 10th. So the AlphaTauris have managed to switch spots on this lap. Giovinazzi up into 11th, Raikkonen 12th. Oh, and here we go. Valtteri Bottas is trying to go past Yuki Tsunoda, and Yuki Tsunoda does really well there to defend from Bottas. Russell, by the way, is already up into 14th place from the back of the grid. Vettel in 15th, Alonso 16th, Stroll 17th, Mick Schumacher, Latifi, and Mazepin 18, 19, 20. Oh my goodness me, Giovinazzi and Raikkonen for Alfa Romeo having a great drive in 11th and 12th so far. And we're only on lap 2 of the Grand Prix. Oh my goodness me, guys. It is getting very, very exciting all of a sudden. I'd be just surprised if there isn't a Verstappen-Hamilton crash on turn 1. Well, there wasn't. There was not. Here we go then. Hamilton and Verstappen. We're on board with Verstappen. He's still within a second of Hamilton. Needs to wait another lap or so before DRS is enabled. But, my goodness me. What a start to this Grand Prix we're having. The Ferraris and the McLarens going absolutely corner to corner with each other. Daniel Ricciardo hasn't quite been able to catch up with Charles Leclerc in the way he was with Carlos Sainz. Lando Norris having a little bit of struggle on these tyres, I think. Doesn't seem to have the grip. Maybe it is just the traffic and the dirty air of the Ferraris in front of him. But Norris seems a little bit unnervy in that McLaren. Down in 7th place. Yuki Tsunoda still ahead of Valtteri Bottas in 9th place. And Gasly rounds out the top 10. The points finishers. Oh my goodness. What a first couple of laps we've got. Lap 3 we enter. Lewis Hamilton still leading this Grand Prix and was 0.3 of a second faster than Verstappen last lap. So Verstappen is going to have to pull something out of the bag fairly soon if he's going to keep within DRS range of Lewis Hamilton. Race control. DRS is enabled now. He is within a second of Lewis Hamilton. And there are 2 DRS zones to be worried about. So I'll quickly show you the track again. There is a DRS zone down into the first corner and right at the end of the second sector. Here we go then. We are seeing that DRS zone now for Max Verstappen. He's going to be gaining on the Mercedes, but not quite enough as both of those drivers go into sector 3 of this lap. My goodness. It's going to be close between these two. Here we go then. They're showing a replay of the start. It'd be interesting to actually see what happens behind because both McLarens get an incredible drive off of the start. But Carlos Sainz just manages to go around the outside, tries not to go into his teammate Charles Leclerc and manages to just keep it in front of Daniel Ricciardo by the looks of things, who did eventually take that place back from him. Here we go. I'd quite like to know what happened to Gasly. I think Gasly loses out to Bottas down into this first corner. It looks like it, yeah. And Tsunoda actually is the one that comes out on top. Bottas manages to gain on Gasly. Oh, and there's a spin between... Who is that? Nicholas Latifi. Latifi touches Stroll. I think that is... Latifi touches Stroll there and gets into a bit of a spin. We're on board with Lando Norris, who tries to do a double overtake on Carlos Sainz and Ricciardo, but doesn't quite make it stick. And eventually both cars do get back in front of Lando Norris. And then he goes very, very wide indeed and loses quite a considerable amount of time to those two. So into the pits is Ocon on the hard compound tyre now. So he's going to go long on the hardest compound and see how far he can go into this race. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen looking closer than they were on the last lap. Let's have a look at their deltas. Yes, they are indeed. Just 7/10 between them at this moment in time. So Hamilton trying to gain a bit of a lead, but Verstappen being able to hold on to his coattails. And actually Hamilton a tiny little bit slower last lap. Remember, Verstappen does now have DRS down the pit straight and also down... Oh, that's why Ocon had to pit. Quite a bit of damage to his front wing by the looks of things. What happened here then? So Ocon is behind the AlphaTauri of Gasly. Oh, and I think it's actually Giovinazzi that might clip the front wing, or is that Kimi Räikkönen? It's one of the Alfa Romeos that clips the Alpine of Ocon. He's come in to change that front wing and also to go onto the hard compound tyre. So not looking good if you're an Alpine fan, I'm afraid. Alonso still down in 15th, is actually now behind Vettel and Russell. And yeah, slow pit stop for Ocon, that was because he had to change his front wing though, so not really that slow all in all. Hamilton is still in the lead 5 laps down. The crowd at COTA are insane. I think all sporting events in America are just a bit better. I know that might be controversial. I've been to a couple of football games in America and both were electric. Like, the atmosphere was incredible. I went to the New York Derby between New York City and New York Red Bull. Did I get the video I sent you? Oh, I don't think so, Liam, mate. I don't think so. When was that? I don't think so. But yeah, Francis, you're bang on. Like, these American crowds are brilliant. And I think hopefully we can get a bigger and bigger following for Formula One in the US. It is slowly starting to grow. I think we still have that issue, though, that most of the races are at very awkward times for the guys over the pond. Here we go then. Verstappen looking closer and closer to Hamilton every single lap. Is getting DRS down into turn 1. Not this time. He is just following Hamilton perfectly along that straight though. Getting as much of a hole in the air as he possibly can. And gaining ever so slightly every single lap. Ooh, Max Verstappen though has had a lap time deleted for track limits. Has had a lap time deleted for track limits. That is very unfortunate. I sent it to you on Wednesday. I'm sorry, Liam. I'm sorry, mate, if I did miss it. I'll have a little look later. Apologies. Oh, and Latifi has also had to come in, and it's another front wing for Latifi as well. So Latifi with an 11-second pit stop gets that change and also goes onto the hard compound tyre. So it's going to do similar to Ocon. Oh, and comes out just beside Ocon. And they nearly get into a little bit of a tangle out of turn 1. Wow. Latifi is just battling today, isn't he? Comes into contact with Lance Stroll earlier on. Now looking like he could have come into contact with Ocon as well. Mazepin has also come in for a pit stop. I missed that completely, apparently. Mazepin has come in. Be interesting to see if he's on the hard compound tyre for the Haas as well. Now, can Latifi and Ocon catch one another? Russell popped up in 13th. Yeah, he's absolutely smashed the start of this race. Here we go then. Nicholas Latifi and Ocon. A little bit of a replay. Oh, Esteban Ocon. My goodness me. It's so close to contact between those two. Ocon is so close to coming into contact there. I feel Gasly deserves a better team than AlphaTauri. I mean, yeah, I completely agree. He is one of the best drivers. Ooh. Hamilton on the radio saying that Verstappen is quicker than him right now. So clearly struggling a little bit is the Mercedes man. Actually was just 700ths faster than Max Verstappen. Yeah, Max is within DRS of Lewis Hamilton, and there is a couple of really big DRS zones here that give you quite a considerable advantage. So Max Verstappen using that DRS to his advantage every single lap and staying within a second of Hamilton. Hasn't yet been able to have a real look at an overtake. But here we go. Ooh, Sergio Perez also staying quite nicely within contention of the two, just in case there is a little collision between them. Sergio Perez is within a distance where he can pounce quite nicely as we go on board now with Sebastian Vettel and Alonso, who are in a little bit of traffic behind George Russell and the Alfa Romeos. I'm sure that Vettel and Alonso would quite like to get past them as soon as possible, although they're having a bit of tussle between themselves at this moment in time. Alonso trying to get past Vettel, two veterans of the sport and two former world champions as well. So let's sort of see how this Alpine Aston Martin battle develops over the next couple of laps, although we're most interested in Verstappen, although it looks like Alonso has gone into the pit. So just after 8 laps, Alonso decides to pit. So here we go then. Alonso also onto the hard compound tyre. My goodness me. Alpine's going super long with their strategy today. Alonso comes out of the pits in 17th place, just behind Mick Schumacher, but about 20 seconds worth of free air for him. So let's see what Alonso can do in that free air. Hamilton, though, 0.8 of a second in front of Verstappen, and then Perez only 3 seconds behind them. A bit of a considerable margin to then Leclerc in 4th place. Oof. Charles Leclerc in 4th place still has actually managed to get a 3-second lead on Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo's edged out a 5-second lead on Carlos Sainz, but Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris are now going against one another and having a little battle. Whilst we've just been chatting as well, Gasly has been able to jump in front of Valtteri Bottas. So Valtteri Bottas now down into 10th place in a Mercedes car. My goodness me, not the weekend Valtteri Bottas was hoping for after his win in Turkey last time out. Save your tyres, Max, two-stop race? Possibly. Possibly could be saving his tyres, although it doesn't sound very Max Verstappen. Oh, we're on board with... Oh no, that was lap 1. Why are they showing a replay of lap 1? Oh. Carlos Sainz has been told to give a position back to Lando Norris and has said no. He gave the position to Daniel Ricciardo, which he had to do for going wide, but he did not do it for Lando Norris. And now Norris and Sainz having a little battle of their own in 6th and 7th place. Yuki Tsunoda is in 8th place. A bit of a margin, though, back 27 seconds behind the leaders. Just shows how incredibly quick Hamilton and Verstappen are compared to everybody else on this track. They're making it look easy. Perez now dropping off the pace a little bit. Perez, I think, actually now nursing his tyres. So we know Perez is always the master of going onto some strange stints on tyres. I think he's going to go super long on these mediums. Sergio Perez, possibly even a one-stop race for Sergio Perez. Charles Leclerc, though, in 4th place, 10 seconds behind Perez already in the Ferrari. Daniel Ricciardo in 5th. Carlos Sainz in 6th. Lando Norris 7th. Tsunoda 8th. Gasly 9th. And Bottas rounds out the top 10. Kimi Räikkönen in 11th place after Giovinazzi has come into the pits. Yuki Tsunoda also about to come into the pits. Let's see where he comes out in this race. Means Räikkönen does jump up into the top 10. Vettel also gains a place. And Yuki Tsunoda and George Russell has come into the pits as well. So it is now the time to change those softer compound tyres into hard compound tyres. They're all going for the white-walled hard compound tyre. There is going to be high degradation because of the temperature here in Austin today. So lots of people going for the harder compound tyre and possibly playing it a little bit safer on their longer stint. Also gives you the option to go back onto the softs later on in the race if you need that little extra boost. We'll see. Same old rubbish. Nobody can keep up with Merc and Red Bull. They are just... I don't even think it's Merc and Red Bull. We're seeing Bottas really struggling in the midfield. I think it is mainly just Hamilton and Verstappen are in a league of their own. Tyres are really hot and not particularly quick, and Verstappen then decides to come into the pits. Here we go then. Can he get the undercut on Hamilton this time around? He wasn't happy with the tyres. He's come in and changes onto the hard compound tyre as well. So he's gone for the white-walled hard compound tyre. And here we go then. Where is he going to come out? He's going to come out behind Leclerc. Is he also going to be behind Ricciardo? It's going to be close to Ricciardo. No, Ricciardo does get through. So Max Verstappen's going to come out in 5th place. Lando Norris is the first of the McLarens to come into the pits. Hamilton says that his tyres are okay on the radio, though, as Gasly also follows Norris into the pits as well. So Bottas gaining quite considerably there into 7th place and needs to put in some lap times now to show what he is all about. Vettel and Stroll, the two Aston Martins, also get through as well. Lando on harder compound tyres, you are indeed correct, Francis. Has come in for the harder compound tyre. There's a lot going on in this race, isn't there? There's just a lot going on between these guys. And Max Verstappen is trying to get past Daniel Ricciardo, get some DRS, and Max Verstappen's going to make it look fairly easy, even though he's on the harder compound tyre. Ricciardo's on some old mediums, and Verstappen gets in front. Hamilton is saying that if Hamilton pits, he's going to come out behind Verstappen. We'll have to wait and see whether Hamilton decides to come in. Sergio Perez has still stayed out. Leclerc has still stayed out. Ricciardo stayed out. Sainz has stayed out as well. My goodness me. Hamilton is still out, but Is he going to change tyres? No. Hamilton stays out this lap. Just seen him come through turn 2. So Hamilton is going to stay out a little bit. Verstappen is going to hit Leclerc. And a little bit of traffic behind the Ferrari. Ricciardo does come into the pits. So does Carlos Sainz. So we'll see where Ricciardo comes out compared to Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz as well. Who's that going through? That's Bottas going through. Raikkonen as well. Is there... Where's Vettel and Stroll? I think Ricciardo's come out in front of Vettel and Carlos Sainz has come out behind Vettel. Here we go. Max Verstappen now trying to guess what strategy they're on and using Sergio Perez as a bit of a guide as to what to do in this race as well. That's how you win championships. You have to be clever. You have to get everything right. And Max Verstappen doing the mathematics in the car for his team. I'm sure the Red Bull pit wall is doing it as well. But Max Verstappen just giving him a little bit of a hand. Oh, Sergio Perez on the radio, I think, is coming in. We've got the Red Bull guys coming out into the pit lane. He is indeed. Sergio Perez is in. So Hamilton, the only guy left. Oh, no, Leclerc, sorry. So Hamilton and Leclerc, the two that are left yet to have pitted in that sort of front group of cars. Bottas and Raikkonen yet to have pitted as well. But they might go for a completely different strategy. Charles Leclerc has now come in, though. So Charles Leclerc has indeed come in. That does release Verstappen back into second place. I think Hamilton's got this all wrong, you know. I think Hamilton has got this all wrong. Perez comes back out on medium compound tyres. Yeah, on medium. That's interesting. That is interesting. Kimi Raikkonen does now come into the pits. So it's all sort of levelling back out. And we're going to sort of see where these drivers are on track after one pit stop. So Hamilton now still leading this race, but if he pits, will be quite far behind Verstappen now. Carlos Sainz making a move on the Aston Martin. Oh no, that's Valtteri Bottas. Sorry, I thought. No. Yes, Sebastian Vettel. Oh, God. Can you tell us a late night race? And Lando Norris doing the same thing. Also making a move, and a good move as well. Lando Norris getting himself back behind the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Here we go then. The Mercedes team are out. Is it Hamilton? Is it Bottas? It's Lewis Hamilton coming in. And Max Verstappen then is going to be leading this race because Lewis Hamilton is now coming out of the pit lane. I think Verstappen's going to get him, you know. Verstappen's now coming down the pit straight. And there he is. Verstappen gets into the lead comfortably ahead of Lewis Hamilton. And it's a considerable lead with that. Lewis Hamilton now only just getting up to speed and coming round turn one. And Verstappen, really good strategy from Red Bull, has given them a good opportunity in this race. Although Hamilton now has the fresher tyres. So it's the balance between those two factors that we're going to have to be thinking about over these next few laps. Can Hamilton make these new tyres work a little bit better than Verstappen? 6 seconds now, the gap between Verstappen and Hamilton. Perez in third place, 11 seconds behind the leader, 5 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc in fourth place. Bottas yet to have stopped, but in fifth. Ricciardo in sixth, Carlos Sainz in seventh, Lando Norris in eighth place. Vettel and Stroll currently 9th and 10th. Yuki Tsunoda and Gasly 11th and 12th. So the AlphaTauris trying to gain as soon as possible. Oh, and I've just seen Gasly dropping down the leaderboard and jumping back up again. What's happened to Pierre Gasly? He just dropped from behind Tsunoda to 15th place. Something's gone wrong for Pierre Gasly. Unless he's pitted or something, I'm not sure. What's gone wrong for Gasly? Can anybody tell me? They're not showing for some reason. They're showing Max Verstappen, who's miles ahead of everyone. Here we go then. So Bottas, the only one yet to pit in this front group. And, oh, what's happened to Gasly? Gasly going really slowly. That's why. Oh, dear. Big problem. Lost the rear suspension. Oh, my goodness me. So Gasly is going to have to nurse that car back around to the pit lane. And I think that might be his race over. It does seem that Gasly has hit some really unlucky patches in this season. And this is just another race that we can chalk down to AlphaTauri not quite being good enough. Wow. God, it's tough being a Gasly fan. I'm going to be honest with you. It's tough. I just want to see him do well. Suspension issues this time around. And again, another good qualifying session from him. Got to 8th place on the grid in front of Bottas. Was doing fairly well. Looked like he was going to pick up some points. And now all over again. Lewis Hamilton is faster on the last lap, but my goodness me. Gasly and his bad luck are best friends. Yeah, it does seem that they hang around with each other a lot, doesn't it? Gasly and bad luck are sort of one in the same. They do love to be together. Bottas on the radio. Strat 4, everything you got. So Bottas is going to use the last of these tyres, you'd imagine, and is going to go for some big laps. Medium compounds. He's had them all the way from the start of the race, though. They've got to be starting to give away. Some of the guys at the front on the mediums were absolutely falling apart. He is coming into the pits now. So Bottas is now pitting on lap 16 of this race. Here we go then. Where will Bottas come out is interesting. Clearly behind both McLarens. So it's whether or not he's in and amongst it with the Aston Martins that is interesting. Not a bad stop from Valtteri there as Lando Norris goes past. So does Sebastian Vettel, though. So Bottas is going to come out in 11th place behind Yuki Tsunoda. And only just ahead of Giovinazzi as Alonso and Raikkonen are going wheel to wheel. The old Ferrari teammates. Alonso pushes Raikkonen wide. There's contact between the two. And Raikkonen and Alonso just going absolutely wheel to wheel there. I think there was some debris that came out of that battle, but going wheel to wheel. One of the old boys at the back of the grid, Alonso and Raikkonen. 13th and 14th, they're battling over there. And you'd think it was for the lead of the race. They are going wheel to wheel in every single one of these corners. My goodness me. Absolutely wonderful stuff. AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, Haas, all useless. Oh, I don't know, not bad, useless. Oh, and Alonso. Alonso on the radio saying that Kimi Raikkonen overtook on the outside of the track and should give the place back. I don't know if you've ever met Kimi Raikkonen. He's not the most obliging of men when it comes to this kind of thing. Did he overtake round? I think Alonso, pushed him off. So now, did he go off? Did he go off the track fully? I think he might have crept that wheel onto the white line, Maybe not. Maybe not. No, he did not. Oh, there is debris. Something came off of one of those cars there, and it is white, so it makes me feel like it came off of the Alfa Romeo. But we never know. I'm not so sure. I think Kimi Raikkonen deserves that place. He did the work. Alonso tried to push him off the track, and Kimi Raikkonen just held him around the outside. Yes, he went slightly off the track, but I don't know. I'd love to know your thoughts. What do you reckon? Is Kimi going to have to give that place back? I don't think so. Yeah, exactly. He got pushed off the track, right? Alonso just shuffled him out to the the outside, and there's not much that Kimi Raikkonen could really do, in my opinion. Gasly has retired, by the way. I forgot to mention. I mean, it was fairly obvious that that was going to be the case, but yeah, he has unfortunately dropped out of this race. So that does mean that somebody else is going to be able to pick up some points, possibly an Aston Martin or an Alfa Romeo is going to be in and amongst the points. Yuki Tsunoda currently our points gatekeeper in 10th place. Stroll and Vettel just in front in 9th and 8th. Then we've got Norris, Sainz, Ricciardo, Leclerc, that Ferrari and McLaren contingent from 4th through 7th. Perez in 3rd place, Hamilton in 2nd, and Verstappen in 1st. And Hamilton is not gaining on Max very much, to be honest with you. Hamilton still 6.2 seconds off the lead of this race, with 18 laps left. 18 laps gone of this race. So, what's happening here? Valtteri Bottas, I think, made a move on Vettel. Oh no, Vettel's pitted. Sorry, who is that then? Oh, it's Yuki Tsunoda and Bottas going wheel to wheel. Bottas obviously trying to get past the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda again, and still struggling. Here we go then. Yuki Tsunoda, the lone AlphaTauri left in this race. Let's see what he can do in terms of defending from Bottas. He's also trying to catch Stroll in front of him too. Those three cars all very, very close to one another. Yuki Tsunoda fairly happy to get a tow from Stroll in front of him. And let's see, Yuki Tsunoda is going to make a move on Lance Stroll. And down into the end of Sector 2. Is Bottas going to make a move too? He is. Stroll loses 2 places in 1 corner. Yuki Tsunoda and Valtteri Bottas. Turn 1 incident involved in Alonso and Raikkonen. No investigation necessary. Raikkonen keeps 12th place. Wow. Alonso will not be happy about that. I am very, very sure indeed. But Lance Stroll losing 2 places in 1 corner there. Really good move from Tsunoda. And Bottas just sort of followed Tsunoda's lead. He was like, you know what? If you've done it, I'll do it too. And now Bottas is going to be fighting with Yuki. Both of them with helmets for this weekend that I absolutely adore. Can Yuki Tsunoda keep his AlphaTauri in front? Down into turn 1. Yes, he can, at least for now, as they come on to the 19th lap of this race. What happens at Gasly? Gasly rear suspension just completely failed, I'm afraid. Flags. Yep, just completely fell apart and had to retire from this race. So, wow, it's actually a really good move from Valtteri Bottas. Got to be brave when Lance Stroll's already had Yuki Tsunoda go past him. You've got to trust that Lance Stroll's not going to cut back inside too much, and he doesn't. So, good move from Valtteri Bottas there. Yeah, Gasly, rear suspension just completely folded in on itself by the looks of things. And that's not a quick fix, unfortunately, for Gasly. So he is going to be out for the rest of this race. Oh, it's Bottas now. It's the same move again, this time around the outside. Not quite Yuki Tsunoda defends, but he does the little switcheroo. And Valtteri Bottas makes it stick. There we go. Valtteri Bottas up into 8th place. Up into 8th place for Valtteri Bottas, just ahead of the lone AlphaTauri, Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki Tsunoda's helmet, by the way, is a peach of a helmet. If you haven't seen the special helmets from this weekend, his helmet is just wonderful. And I recommend just having a flick through, because there's lots of special helmets for this weekend, and most of them are pretty decent indeed. They should promote Yuki to Red Bull for the rest of the season. Oh, he's the one needed to defend from Mercedes. I don't know. Gasly did a really good job in Russia defending from Hamilton. The Red Bull guys have got to be fairly happy with AlphaTauri, giving them pretty good defensive performances in the last few races, to be fair. But Bottas has now managed to get up in front. Max and Lewis, is going to come down to the final stint on softs. Undercut is looking strong. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Max Verstappen did just set a fastest lap of the race though, so Lewis Hamilton not gaining on his title rival at this moment in time, and I think maybe we'll go quite long on these tyres and might try and get the advantage right at the end of this race. Ooh. Fernando Alonso goes so deep on Giovinazzi and still manages to make it stick. How on earth has Alonso managed to do that? He goes really, really wide and really deep on Giovinazzi, goes off the track and then manages to come back inside the track, still behind Giovinazzi by quite a considerable margin. But then the next sort of couple of corners just manages to make it stick. Let's have a little look at this. So turn 19 goes super wide, not quite there, but then comes back onto the track and then gets inside. I know he didn't overtake off the track, but the fact that he went off the track there kind of helped him. I don't know about that one from Fernando Alonso. I'm not so sure, because he didn't really gain an advantage, but he did kind of gain an advantage at the same time. I'm not so sure. Carlos Sainz, though, has been gaining on Daniel Ricciardo whilst we've been watching Alonso battle through the Alfa Romeos. And Carlos Sainz now within a second of Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo not feeling as fast on these hard compound tyres as he maybe was in the first stint. Gotta give some credit to Red Bull. They've pulled out pace out of nowhere. Yeah, they've been wonderful. Norris, poor pace or preserving tyres. Maybe a bit of both, to be honest with you. He's not looked great. He does look the slower of this pack. Charles Leclerc looks by far and away the fastest of this pack, though. I think you've got to give it to Charles Leclerc. He's been very, very good indeed. Daniel Ricciardo's been pretty good still, but I think has been struggling on these hard tyres. And Carlos Sainz is now right up behind him. Oh, good. Lando Norris, though, 7th place currently behind Carlos Sainz. 29 likes on the stream, by the way. Let's bump that up to 30, shall we? Somebody. One person. Do us a favour. Bump that up to 30 likes for the stream. It's a late night one. The US Grand Prix. We've just hit 4,000 subscribers as well. Now is the time to give a little like to the stream. Ooh. Alpine and the FIA having a bit of a to and fro on the radio. Alpine saying, well, Raikkonen overtook outside of the track limits. The FIA saying that he was pushed off the track, but he overtook when he was off the track. Wow. Lots of different opinions about this one. I'd love to know your thoughts. Do we think... For me, I think Kimi Raikkonen just gets pushed off the track by Fernando Alonso. There's contact between the two. And then Raikkonen actually makes the move when he's back on the track. So I'm not sure. I think this track suits Danny Rick's driving style. Well, he's at home, isn't he? He is at home now. A like from America. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, WTF Charles. Charles? I always read it as Charles just because Charles Leclerc, but probably Charles if you're in America. Verstappen, though, still dominating this race. Hamilton has managed to close the gap in, but only to 5 seconds. So not a considerable gap that he's closed there. Whoa, we're up to 36 likes all out of nowhere. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate that. Larry for the like as well. Thank you so much. Let's see. Have we also... The other thing I'm keeping an eye on is the video I made yesterday about Mercedes is on track to be my 5th video ever to hit 10,000 views. So I've got a lot going on at this moment in time. And this race is really hotting up as well. It's been a wonderful day of sport 4,000 subscribers for me. Liverpool win 5-0. And now we've got a hell of a Grand Prix on our hands. And the McLaren guys are looking good too. Ricciardo's battling with the Ferraris. Lewis is going to gain a full second since pitting. Yeah, but at the same time, he's still 5 seconds behind. He did lose 6 seconds in the pit stop, so it's going to have to do something special for me. It's going to have to do something special, is Lewis Hamilton. I know that the strategy is sort of going to come towards him at the end of this stint, but at the same time, it's going to be very, very tricky indeed. What's the Drivers' Championship going to look like? So Hamilton is going to gain, 18 points in second place. Verstappen looking at 26 at this moment in time. Oh, Alonso has to give the place back to Giovinazzi. I told you that looked suspicious. Told you that it looked a bit weird, that overtake from Alonso. And Alonso now is going to be really annoyed with that because he was 2 seconds in front of Giovinazzi. So he's going to have to slow down so much to give that place back. He does do so, Fernando Alonso. And now it's going to get very interesting between those two. Alonso is going to be hunting down Giovinazzi like a man possessed as they come through turn 19 together and on to lap 24 of this race. Wow. Here we go then. Alonso on Giovinazzi down into turn 1. Not quite close enough. He is going to get DRS on this lap though. And you can just see behind that helmet there is going to be a frustrated Spaniard indeed. Fernando Alonso had to slow down so much to give that place back to Giovinazzi. Wow. Fairly comfortable for Giovinazzi. Gets himself through, but Alonso, as I said, will not be happy and is within DRS of the Alfa Romeo as well. So we'll see how that progresses down into the final turn of the second sector, which is where the DRS zone is this weekend in Austin. Daniel Ricciardo still defending from Carlos Sainz. Here we go then. We are now on board with Fernando Alonso. He's looking at the Alfa Romeo. He's going to go down the inside. Oh, parks it on the apex. Giovinazzi runs really wide, pushes the Alpine back out, and gives a little shove towards Alonso. But Giovinazzi also... Ooh. Hello, Anne. Thank you so much. Like from the Netherlands. Wow, we are here, there, and everywhere. And the Netherlands as well. It's going to be a late night one for you guys in Germany as well. Very late night race for you guys. Here we go then. Alonso and Giovinazzi going absolutely toe-to-toe with each other through these last few corners. And now down the pit straight. Is Alonso going to have a little look down into turn 1? Or is he going to wait for that final DRS zone of the lap? We'll have to wait and see. I'm not so sure, if this isn't basically identical. Giovinazzi, though, holding on to the place rather than gaining the place. So is that how it differs? I'm not so sure. But Alonso edging closer and closer to the points now is Alonso. So it's that second DRS zone that they're all using. It doesn't look like the first DRS zone many people have really using. Giovinazzi has been told to give the place to Alonso now. So Alonso does get up into 11th place. Those two are just going absolutely just corner to corner with each other. And it's causing them to actually give Russell an opportunity to catch up a little bit. Russell and Vettel have now caught up to the back of Giovinazzi. So here we go. Oh, and George Russell now has to defend from Sebastian Vettel. Not quite enough. It's that second DRS zone. So you can see there just at the end of the second sector, just before that yellow line, the green dotted line, that DRS zone down there in towards the third sector is the main area where people are going for those overtakes today, unless you are Sebastian Vettel, who is going around the outside of George Russell and now goes down towards turn 18 ahead of George Russell. So, wow, really good move from Vettel through that final sector, round the final corner, and will start lap 26 of this race in 13th place. So, the Aston Martin of Vettel now ahead of the Williams. Giovinazzi will have to give the spot back. Yeah, he did indeed. Giovinazzi now down into 12th and will be actually looking in his mirrors to Sebastian Vettel, who's going to have DRS on Giovinazzi this lap. So there's a lot going on in this pack between 11th and 15th place. A like from South Africa. Wow. Thank you, Tian. I don't know if I've ever met anyone from South Africa. So that's very cool. Drove this circuit myself last night. Wait, what? I drove this circuit myself this night. Very nice. On the game or in real life? Oh, in the sim. I was going to say. Watch Lando making a sprint to catch Carlos. I mean, Carlos has lost a little bit of time to Daniel Ricciardo. They were very close to one another at one point. It was looking like Carlos Sainz might be able to make a move, but the Ferrari has dropped back just a tad, not like too much, still 1.5 seconds between Ricciardo and Sainz. So Ricciardo still can't make any sort of mistake, but Carlos Sainz not underneath the rear wing like he was a few laps ago. Lewis Hamilton still in second place. Just a quick rundown as we get to about halfway through this race. Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez are podium positions so far. Charles Leclerc holding on to what has been a fairly easy and comfortable 4th place for him. Daniel Ricciardo is in a very solid 5th place for McLaren. Carlos Sainz in 6th. Lando Norris 7th. Valtteri Bottas has got himself up into 8th place with Yuki Tsunoda, the lone AlphaTauri, in 9th. Kimi Räikkönen, our final points place position, 10th place for him. And Alonso will be trying to catch him as quickly as possible. Oh, virtual safety car. This is going to close up the gap a little bit. Where is this incident? Virtual safety car. What's gone on here then? A little bit of debris. Was that it? Oh, there was a bit of debris on the track, so one of the marshals went to go and get it. Okay. What? I'm confused. Did he just decide to go onto the track? Like, was that bit of debris actually, like, really in the way of anything? I'm not so sure. Here we go then. Lewis Hamilton lost a lot of time on that last lap, though. Under the virtual safety car. Almost half a second. And Perez, his drink system isn't working. Oh, that is not going to be nice for Perez. It is a hot, hot day in Austin. Will we see anybody try and take advantage of this virtual safety car and pit? Like, technically, you don't lose time when you pit under a virtual safety car, but I'm not sure it was long enough for there to be any real advantage to be gained. That was just very confusing, if if you ask me. But here we go then. We're back underway, and the virtual safety car has been dealt with. I thought somebody had had a spin or something, but just one of the marshals decided to have a little run across the track and back again. Hamilton then 3.2 seconds behind Verstappen is making slow progress towards the Red Bull, and it is going to be at this point in the stint where it is going to start to know. I'm new to F1. I just wanted to know, what do those decimal numbers mean next to everyone's names? That's the interval, so how far behind the next driver that they are. So, for instance, Hamilton is 3.046 seconds behind Max Verstappen at this point. So it's how far they are behind the driver in front in terms of seconds. So a lot of Formula One, we're worried about time. A lot of Formula One is about knowing about time. It's basically how it works. So like 3 seconds in a race isn't too bad. 3 seconds in qualifying is an absolute eternity. So it depends what you're watching, and it starts to get a little bit complicated. But that's the gap between two cars. Here we go then. Lance Stroll actually having a little look at George Russell. We just saw Sebastian Vettel, his teammate, get past the Williams. And unfortunately, George Russell's race started incredibly well, but the new sheriff in town struggling on these hard compound tyres, it seems. And the mediums for the Aston Martin guys working out very well. Alonso actually comes into the pits for a new set of hard compound tyres. So going early. And also, here we go, Max Verstappen in the pits as well. 26 laps to go on those harder compound tyres. Now, let's see what Hamilton can do now he's here in some proper clean air. I don't think there's any traffic for Hamilton, any back markers. So I think it is just Verstappen. Oh, Hamilton on the radio being told to push it then. Here we go. Let's see what kind of track time he can do. I'm just having a look at the little track. I don't think that there's many cars in front of Hamilton. I think he's got a good couple of corners space to really stretch his legs. But obviously Hamilton did come in later, and has got a little bit longer on these tyres. And Carlos Sainz coming in as well. Oh, and it's a slow stop. Rear right tyre went all wrong for Carlos Sainz. 5.6 seconds in the pits there. And it was the rear right. Seemed like it got a little bit stuck possibly, but it was slow coming off. And Carlos Sainz unfortunately going to lose out some time there. Sergio Perez letting Max Verstappen use a little bit of DRS and letting his teammate through. Max Verstappen almost giving him a little bit of a nod and a wave, thanking his teammate for letting him through nicely. Max Verstappen has stopped fairly early there, though. 26 laps to go. Is first of everybody to go onto the hard compound tyre for the second... Alonso, came in 1 lap earlier. And Carlos Sainz came on the same lap, so... Here we go. Daniel Ricciardo being told Carlos Sainz had a slow stop. So McLaren just need a good, clean stop. Hamilton set to fastest lap of this Grand Prix. Can Max Verstappen do the same? Is now on fresh, hard compound tyres. Sergio Perez comes in, pits, and goes onto the harder compound tyre too. So Sergio Perez is going to come out behind Charles Leclerc in 4th place. But remember, Charles Leclerc yet to have pitted. That's Daniel Ricciardo I can see in the background coming in to the pits. So Ricciardo is covering Carlos Sainz. Need a good clean stop from McLaren here. Come on, boys. We can do it. Fairly decent stop for Ricciardo there. Lovely for the guys in orange. That's what we love to see. Doubling their stop, actually. And Norris coming in on the same lap. A little bit slow, though, for Norris. It is always a worry when they double stack like that. And Lando Norris, a 4.2 second stop. Hopefully won't miss out too much. Carlos Sainz does come through. But Lando Norris will keep his 8th place just behind Carlos Sainz. Just about. And there's a Haas there that hopefully will just get out of the way of Lando Norris. Yes, he does indeed. Whew. So a double stop for McLaren on lap 31 of this Grand Prix. Now, Ricciardo. What can he do? Can he catch Charles Leclerc? I think will be, in his mind now. Although Charles Leclerc has been very, very quick indeed, but has yet to come in for tyres. So Daniel Ricciardo's got some fast, fresh tyres. Max Verstappen now is putting in faster lap times than Lewis Hamilton again. So Lewis Hamilton going longer on these tyres because he went longer in the first stint. But let's see. Lewis Hamilton losing another 0.3 to Max Verstappen in the 3rd sector. It's not looking good for Lewis Hamilton at this moment in time. He's losing a lot of tenths every single sector to Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen obviously on fresh tyres and also doing some incredibly quick lap times. Here we go then. So Hamilton, if he pits now, will come out about 3 seconds behind Verstappen, realistically. But we'll obviously have fresher tyres going into the final few laps of this Grand Prix. So Mercedes just, backing Lewis Hamilton to look after his tyres a little bit better towards the end of the Grand Prix than Verstappen. And therefore, it looks like those two are going to be on the same kind of track in sort of 20 laps time, basically. Hamilton playing the long game here in Austin. Comes around the final corner, doesn't pit again. Hamilton goes round down onto the pit straight. So will start lap 33 of this race. The Mercedes guys not even out of the garage. George Russell in the pits now and drops down the order. Lewis Hamilton getting through some back markers there. I think that's Giovinazzi possibly that he's just gone past. Or even Kimi Räikkönen, not sure. One of the Alfa Romeos that Hamilton has just breezed past. Verstappen now 16.4 seconds behind. Charles Leclerc behind him in third place comes into the pits. So Charles Leclerc is in the pits for Ferrari as Sergio Perez puts in the fastest lap of the race. Wow. So Sergio Perez moves back up into third place quite comfortably. And Charles Leclerc comes out of the pit lane in fourth still. Although Valtteri Bottas is now coming up the straight. And nope, Charles Leclerc will keep his fourth place position. Valtteri Bottas is going to be close to the back of this Ferrari though. But remember, Bottas yet to have stopped a second time as of now. So Valtteri Bottas a bit out of position and hopefully won't cause Charles Leclerc too much of a headache because they're not really racing each other this afternoon. Ricciardo in 6th place, Sainz in 7th, Lando Norris in 8th, Tsunoda 9th and Vettel rounding out the points finishers in 10th currently. Then Lance Stroll, the man who's closest to the points behind his teammate Sebastian Vettel. Hamilton on the radio. Still targeting +6, +7. Wow. So Lewis Hamilton going really long to get some really fresh tyres for the second and final stint on what you'd imagine is going to be another set on hard compound tyres. So Mercedes going for a very different strategy to Red Bull. Let's see if it pays off for them. Again, the Drivers' Championship could not be any closer, really. 6 points between the two. If you're a Charles Leclerc fan, you're going to be happy because he is miles ahead of Carlos Sainz, and it will mean that he takes that Ferrari lead between the two teammates. Obviously, 0.5 of a point between the two of them coming into this weekend, but Charles Leclerc looks like he's going to overtake his teammate. Daniel Ricciardo also looks like he's going to pick up a good haul of points. So does Lando Norris. Down in 8th place currently. We're on board with Yuki Tsunoda, who's currently running in 11th place. And he's looking at the back of the Aston Martins, but also defending from Kimi Räikkönen. The old guard and the new fresh blood going wheel to wheel with each other. And Kimi Räikkönen looks like he might come out on top. No, Yuki Tsunoda gets a good defensive move in there. Wow. The young and the old coming up to each other on the track. Here we go then. Checo feeling like Kimi. Yeah. Yeah, Checo's drink system has failed, unfortunately. But Sergio Perez has been told to go for it. So let's see what he can do. I'm not sure Sergio Perez is going to be anywhere close to either of the two leaders, and I can't see them being worried about Charles Leclerc behind either, so I'm not sure why Sergio Perez has been told to push, but he has been told to push, so no, that's Red Bull. Let's see then, Hamilton and Verstappen. Verstappen was 1.3 seconds faster. Who wins the championship if both drivers have the same points at the end of the season? I think it goes to whoever has the most wins. So it depends on how the points are gained over the next few races. Just come back. How is Max 14 seconds behind Lewis? Yeah, Max Verstappen has gone for a second pit stop. Lewis Hamilton yet to pit. So Lewis Hamilton going longer on these hard compound tyres. And I think hopefully will be quicker going into the final few laps of the race. Playing the long game of Mercedes. As Bottas comes in for his stop. A fairly quick and neat stop from Bottas as well. Be interesting to see where he comes out. Is he ahead of Lando Norris? I think he might be. Bottas comes out in 7th place. So Lando Norris losing out to the Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas. And Bottas now on fresher tyres than Carlos Sainz and Ricciardo in front of him. So let's see what he can do from there. Valtteri Bottas in 7th place. Wow. Vettel is still in 9th. Yuki Tsunoda just about holding on to 10th place at this point as Stroll comes into the pits. Who are we on board with here? We're on board with Kimi Räikkönen just behind Yuki Tsunoda going down into turn 1. Räikkönen just outside the points in 11th place. He would be very happy indeed to pick up another point for Alfa Romeo in his final season of Formula 1. He's got 6 races left in Formula 1. And we are going to say goodbye to one of the absolute greats of the sport at the end of this year in Kimi Räikkönen. So let's see what you can do behind Yuki Tsunoda, one of the fresh faces in Formula 1. Clearly had a bit of a struggle in his rookie season, but we're hoping Tsunoda can get some points this afternoon, although Räikkönen will definitely want to be the man to take them off of him. So let's see how that develops between those two in 10th and 11th place. Lewis Hamilton. Six seconds inside of a window is Max Verstappen. I'm confused. I mean, Lewis not bothered, so let's see. Lewis Hamilton needs to find 6 seconds on these fresh tyres. My goodness me, that is a lot of seconds. 42 likes on the stream. I've just had a little check. Thank you guys so much. This stream has been really good. Obviously a late night stream. You guys are feeling it. I'm feeling it, to be fair. And it's going to go right down to the wire. Make sure that you are here in 20 laps time because it is going to be close. Lewis Hamilton now still goes around on these hard compound tyres. Clearly, maybe might even go on to mediums or softs at this stint. Hamilton going for a completely different strategy to what... Could you go on to soft compound tyres? Does anyone know how many laps the soft compound tyres last? I thought it was only about 10. And I cannot see Hamilton doing another 10 laps on these hard compound tyres. So if anybody could tell me, that would be wonderful. Medium compound tyres, maybe? But it does look like the hard compound tyres are the choice. Like everybody else has gone on to the harder compound tyres for their final stint to the line. Obviously, Max Verstappen pushing quite hard as we see George Lucas in the pits and watching the Formula 1. He's on for a war between Hamilton and Verstappen. And those two stars are going to be battling and having a... I was trying to do a Star Wars. I fucked it. No, I was so close. Other George Lucas franchises. 10 to 12 laps. Yeah, so that's a bit too few, isn't it? Like Hamilton can't go for that long. Oh, Mercedes are coming out with hard compound tyres. So let's see if Hamilton comes in this lap. Lewis Hamilton coming around turn 18 does duck into the pits then. So this is where it is game on between these two. Hard compound tyres for the Mercedes driver. And a good stop from the Mercedes team as well. Number 44, Lewis Hamilton, is going to come out of the pits. He's going to be well behind Max Verstappen, but on much fresher tyres. So let's see what Hamilton can do then. If ever there has been a time that Lewis Hamilton needs to find some laps out of absolutely nowhere, this is it. So Hamilton has just come around turn 1. Verstappen nearing turn 5 and 6. So he's going to need quite a bit. Hamilton 8 seconds behind Verstappen. 8 seconds to find from Hamilton then in these last few race laps. He's got 18 laps to find 8 seconds. That is going to be a big, big task for Hamilton. But if there's one driver on the grid you sort of expect would be able to do it, it's probably him, isn't it? So let's see what he can do in these fresher, hard compound tyres. Also, you've got to remember, Max's tyres are going to drop off towards the end of the race a lot quicker than Hamilton. So even if he can't make up those 8 seconds right away, he's going to get closer and closer and closer towards the end of this race. I think it's going to go down to the wire, guys. I really do. I think 18 laps is a very good sweet spot for 8 seconds. If you think he can make up half a second a lap for 16 laps, it's going to go right down to these last couple of corners, isn't it? My goodness me. Sergio Perez sets still fastest lap of the race in 3rd place. Charles Leclerc in 4th. Daniel Ricciardo 5th. Carlos Sainz 6th. Valtteri Bottas managed to sneak himself into that pack in 7th place. And Lando Norris has been the one to miss out in 8th. Vettel currently running in 9th place. A really good drive from the Aston Martin if he can finish there at the end of the day, starting from towards the back of the grid. And then Yuki Tsunoda started in 10th place and is currently in 10th place still. Kimi Räikkönen, though, the man trying to take that final point off of him. Alonso, after a very difficult middle stint to this race, is now just 0.8 seconds behind Räikkönen in 12th place. Giovinazzi 13th, Stroll 14th, George Russell and Latifi, the two Williamses, side by side in 15th, 16th. Ocon is 17th, Mick Schumacher and Mazepin 18th and 19th, and Gasly after a suspension failure out of this race. So it's going to be very interesting, these last 17 laps of the race. Max Verstappen with an 8.3 second lead. So Hamilton has been able to gain 0.5, 0.6 of a second on that last lap, although Verstappen is having to battle through a little bit of traffic at this point. I think that's Giovinazzi that he's just had to get past there. It is indeed, because he's now just behind Alonso is Verstappen, and Alonso and Räikkönen are having a battle of their own behind Tsunoda. So Verstappen is going to have to find a way through these back markers that doesn't cost him too much time. But of course, any back marker that Verstappen gets past, Hamilton has to get past too. So here we go. Leclerc just loves P4, doesn't he? Yeah, he does indeed. I mean, he's doing exceptionally well in P4. He's 11 seconds behind Perez. But if anything goes wrong for any of those guys at the front, Charles Leclerc is still there, and still a massive margin to Daniel Ricciardo in 5th. So Leclerc, for me, has had an exceptionally good race in 4th place. I know that he won't get driver of the day just because he hasn't done it in like a fancy style. He hasn't had to overtake hundreds of cars to get there, but a very, very solid performance from Charles Leclerc. And one of the more professional drives you're probably going to see all season, as we now are on board with Lewis Hamilton just behind Sebastian Vettel, it looks like. So Vettel giving him a little bit of a tow, and then we'll hopefully move out of the way of Lewis Hamilton. He hasn't, though. Wow, so it took a little while for Vettel to get out of the way of Hamilton. And I imagine Vettel is more of a Verstappen fan than a Hamilton fan, to be honest with you. So it's going to be tricky for Hamilton to get through all this traffic, because I can't imagine many of them are big fans of Hamilton, whereas quite a few drivers do quite like Verstappen. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Haven't been on board with Verstappen in a little while, though. Don't know whether he's been able to get through that Alonso Raikkonen Tsunoda battle. Hamilton still 8 seconds behind with 16 laps to go. And Max Verstappen, the fans going wild for him here in Austin. A big actual contingent for Red Bull in America. They're obviously big fans of Red Bull over there. I think Sergio Perez does help that a big Mexican contingent here in Austin. But Verstappen fans also going wild as he comes down the pit lane. Hamilton was half a second faster on that last lap, even though he had to get past Sebastian Vettel. So he is going to be closing in. He is closing in. The fastest Sector 3 that we've seen from this race from Lewis Hamilton. So now he's in a little bit of air. What can we see from Lewis? Fastest Sector 1 from Lewis Hamilton. Here we go then. He's starting to wind up the gears. Here we go. This is what we like to see from Lewis Hamilton at this point in the race. It's going to get very interesting. It's going to be so close between these two. Honestly, I think they're going to be right next to each other at the end of this race. Hamilton now 6.9 seconds behind Verstappen, setting the fastest middle sector that we've seen from anybody. This is going to be a fastest lap from Lewis Hamilton, basically guaranteed. And it's going to get very interesting indeed. Wow. 15 laps to go, 6.5 seconds. So Lewis Hamilton has found a little bit of a gap. And my goodness me, as he turned these tyres on. Who do I think is going to win? That is a great question. I honestly, it could go either way for me. It really could go either way. Lewis Hamilton is setting some absolutely electric lap times, but he's still got to get past Verstappen. And we know Verstappen's actually pretty good defensively. Like, I do quite rate Verstappen's defensive driving. So it's going to be so close between these two. Hamilton is only gaining, though, because is Verstappen through the back markers yet? Haven't actually seen him in a little while. So Verstappen now coming around. Oh, is that Ocon? And Ocon is going to retire the car. I just realised that Ocon had dropped down the rankings considerably. Whenever you see Ocon behind Mick Schumacher, you know that something's up. So Ocon is unfortunately going to drop out of this race and going to come home in 19th after 42 laps of this Grand Prix. Black and white flags for Mazepin and for Raikkonen as well. So obviously either track limits or possibly getting in the way of somebody else under blue flags. But black and white flags, warnings for those two. And wow. Verstappen is still behind Tsunoda, so still trying to battle his way through these three as Hamilton sets another fastest sector time in Sector 2. Max Verstappen then. Is he going to be able to get in front of Tsunoda down into Turn 1? Yes, he is. Tsunoda might get in a little bit of trouble for that, you know. He's behind. Tsunoda was holding up Verstappen for a considerable amount of time there. I'm sure that the Red Bull bosses will not be a fan of Yuki for that. Here we go then. Oh! Yuki. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Ricciardo and Sainz had a little bit of a coming together there, it looks. So Carlos Sainz, whilst we've been worrying about Hamilton at the front, Carlos Sainz has got to within 0.5 of a second of Ricciardo, and I think they might have had a little bit of a coming together as well, by the looks of it. My goodness me. McLaren at the moment are picking up 14 points. Ferrari picking up 20, so they'd be 2 points at 1.5 points, ahead. Yeah, Verstappen had a lot of trouble getting through those three. Raikkonen, Tsunoda, and at the time it was Alonso, although Alonso's dropped off completely. Let's have a little replay of this Carlos Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo incident, and I'll tell you what happened. So, yeah, Carlos Sainz gets up alongside. Ooh. And Daniel Ricciardo, I'm not sure if Daniel Ricciardo just turns into him. It was quite, maybe, I don't know, the rear end of the McLaren sort of slips towards the Ferrari. Carlos Sainz sort of taking a bit of a gamble around the outside, and the tyres come together. There is contact there between the rear tyres of the McLaren and the Ferrari. what does the black and white flag mean? So a black and white flag is a bit of a warning. So if you've done something that the FIA consider to be a little bit naughty, but not quite naughty enough for you to be kicked out of the race fully, they give you a black and white flag. It's a bit of a warning to be like, don't do that again. It's probably track limits, I'd imagine. So trying to gain an advantage by driving off of the track for those two. Here we go then. Carlos Sainz still right behind Ricciardo and will have DRS again, although they're now coming around into the pit straight. So round turn 19 they come. Carlos Sainz is going to have DRS, but probably won't have a look down into turn 1. Not very fashionable to have a look down into turn 1 this weekend. Better to have a look down at the end of the second sector. So he'll keep within DRS zone as much as he possibly can. Although Valtteri Bottas is also gaining on the 2. So Daniel Ricciardo and Carlos Sainz need to be a little bit aware of each other and Bottas behind. So if they do come together again, Bottas is there to start to jump up into them. Hamilton now 3.8 seconds behind Verstappen. Although Hamilton, remember, does have to get through those back markers that Verstappen had so much trouble getting through. So it is Giovinazzi, Raikkonen and Tsunoda that Hamilton will need to get past. And Tsunoda caused a real headache for Verstappen. So Tsunoda might do the same for Hamilton. Unsportsmanlike behaviour, possibly. But a little bit of contact between Ricciardo and Sainz. The FIA, I'm sure, will look into it. Last lap, though, Hamilton was 0.4 of a second quicker than Verstappen. If he keeps up that pace, he's going to be within DRS of Verstappen in about 5 laps. So let's see what he can do. Here we go. Verstappen then. And Hamilton. Maybe Verstappen is keeping hold of these tyres, though. You never know. Verstappen might just be going a little bit slower to hold on to these tyres for a little bit longer. Hamilton, though, absolutely gunning for Max Verstappen. And Lewis Hamilton then coming around. Oh, wait, has Lewis Hamilton got past Yuki Tsunoda? He has. Lewis Hamilton is ahead of Yuki Tsunoda and that contingent. So I think now Lewis Hamilton is right behind Max Verstappen. So Hamilton has managed to get through that back marker train and keep gaining time on Verstappen. Hamilton's done exceptionally well there to get round Raikkonen and Tsunoda and do it so cleanly while still making up time on Verstappen. 3.4 seconds the gap with 10 laps left to go. As I said, guys, it's going to be right at the end of this race. Hamilton last lap, another 0.5 seconds. So 3.2 the gap now between Verstappen and Hamilton. And he's gaining tenths every single sector. But as I said, we don't know. Is Verstappen holding on to these tyres a little bit? Carlos Sainz now has Bottas in his rear mirrors as well underneath his rear wing. So Sainz has gone from battling with Ricciardo to defending from Bottas very quickly here indeed. Carlos Sainz under pressure from the Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas. He's going to have DRS as well. Is he going to be able to make it happen down into turn 1? Here we go then. Valtteri Bottas gaining and gaining on Carlos Sainz. Not quite enough this lap, but is now within DRS of the Ferrari. About actually 0.6 of a second behind the Ferrari as they come across the start-finish line. I'll give you a quick rundown of the rankings so far. Verstappen and Hamilton are our top. Oh, as I go on to Carlos Sainz, actually, what's happened here? Damage to his front wing. Now, did that happen when him and Ricciardo came into contact with each other? Apologies to interrupt myself, but yeah, that front wing end plate is dangling off of the Ferrari, and that might be why Carlos Sainz has lost a little bit of pace over the last few laps. Verstappen on the radio. Ooh, and Red Bull panicking. Verstappen asking his engineer, what can he do? Can I do something? Red Bull saying, look after your tyres, look after your rear tyres in particular, and hopefully we can keep you in a good enough position to hold on. Although Hamilton still gaining 2.5 seconds now, the gap to Verstappen. Hamilton's absolutely flying around this track now that he's on these fresh hard compound tyres. It is amazing how Hamilton just manages to find this pace when nobody else seemingly can. Like, he's just done it lap after lap this race in this final stint where he's just found temps every single sector. Bottas, though, still right behind Carlos Sainz. And has a look down into turn one. Still not quite enough, although Valtteri Bottas getting closer and closer every single lap. So we've got Verstappen leading this race from Lewis Hamilton, then Perez 25 seconds behind. Just shows how quick Hamilton and Verstappen have been today. My goodness me. Leclerc in 4th place, Ricciardo 5th, Carlos Sainz 6th, Bottas in 7th place, Lando Norris 8th, Yuki Tsunoda 10th, and Kimi Räikkönen currently the final point scorer in 10th place. Giovinazzi 11th, Sebastian Vettel 12th, Alonso 13th, Stroll 14th, Russell and Latifi 15th and 16th. Mick Schumacher and Mazepin round out the cars that are still running in 17th and 18th. Ocon is out of this race. Something to do with the rear end of his car, and Gasly, the rear suspension broke on his car as well. So they are both out of this race. Someone explained to me why Verstappen pitted so early. He should have stayed out a bit longer. So he pitted when it was sort of seen as the right thing to do. So especially in the first stint, because the guys who are in the top 10 have to use their tyres from yesterday's second qualifying. Basically, he just ran out of tyres fairly quickly in that first stint. There was lots of people all coming in, and it looked like the quicker of the strategies at that time. Get those fresh hard compound tyres on, and let's not be silly about it. It did mean that he got the lead of this race. So, you know, if Verstappen wouldn't have come in when he did, he wouldn't have been in the lead of this race anyway. So he went for that strategy to gain early, and now Hamilton has gone long to gain at the end. So Verstappen went early to gain the position on track. Hamilton went late to gain the time at the end. So it's just sort of two different strategies that each of them have gone for. Votes for driver of the day, and somehow Verstappen and Hamilton are the top two. I mean, yeah, Verstappen I wouldn't say has had that good a race, has he? Is that okay? Hamilton's been much more impressive for me than Verstappen today. I think it always looks more impressive to be the hunter than the hunted, though. So that might just be my bias, because Hamilton is absolutely flying around this track on tyres which are 11 laps younger than Verstappen's. And there's still 7 laps left to go. So Hamilton now is getting to within a couple of seconds of Verstappen. That does mean he's going to start to be in the dirty air of the Red Bull as well. So the dirty air of the Red Bull could start to slow Hamilton down. But also you could argue down the straights he's going to gain quite a lot as the Red Bull is punching a hole in the air for the Mercedes. So we'll have to wait and see how much Hamilton can still gain. Black and white flag for Stroll for track limits. So Stroll being very naughty with the track limits, possibly trying to gain a little bit on Alonso in front of him. Both Aston Martins outside of the points at this moment in time, but so are both of the Alpines. And just Yuki Tsunoda in that midfield battle between those constructors. Actually, I'll pop this Constructors Championship up for us, so we can have a little look. So yeah, neither Alpine or Aston Martin are going to score points this weekend by the looks of things at this moment in time. Yuki Tsunoda is going to be the sole points scorer, and he's going to pick up probably 2 points for AlphaTauri. So that's just going to eke them closer to Alpine, not by a lot, but by a tiny little bit. Catching is one thing, passing is another. Murray Walker, of course, the absolute legend that is Murray Walker. But Hamilton is still catching. 6 laps left to go of this race. And Hamilton is gaining ever closer still. Not by the 5 or 6 temps that he has been, but just by a couple of temps on that last lap. So possibly the dirty air starting to come into fruition. Although we're now looking at Sebastian Vettel and Giovinazzi having a little bit of a battle. Sebastian Vettel, of course, the 4-time world champion behind the Italian Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi yet to be confirmed for Formula 1 next year, trying to hold on to that Alfa Romeo seat. But can he hold on to 11th place behind Sebastian Vettel? He's getting ever closer, is Vettel, behind car number 99. Let's see what he can do down this straight. Not quite close enough, but here we go then. He's going to get DRS now, Vettel, behind Giovinazzi down towards the start of this third sector. Is he going to be close enough? Sebastian Vettel with the Mercedes power unit obviously took an engine penalty, so that is a fresh engine in the Aston Martin and not quite close enough to have a look this lap, but maybe next time around. Started 18th, did Sebastian Vettel, and is now battling for 11th. A really good drive from him in the Aston Martin. And if he could gain on Giovinazzi and get past, he's got just enough laps, you'd argue, to get in front of Raikkonen as well and possibly pick up a point for Aston Martin. Hello, Sadie. How you doing? No problem at all. You've come at just the right time. We've got Lewis Hamilton 1.6 seconds behind Verstappen and gaining every single lap. Verstappen, though, trying his best to hold on to this lead. Now, Hamilton might have just killed these tyres because he's not gaining anywhere near as much as he was over the last few laps. But it is going to be a very exciting end. Sergio Perez miles off, 31 seconds now behind these two leaders. Just shows how incredibly quick Verstappen and Hamilton have been. And Fernando Alonso also retiring from this race. Unbelievable from Fernando Alonso there. And Ocon as well. So both Alpines out of this race. And Hamilton actually slower in that first sector. Are the tyres just not going to hold on quite long enough for Lewis Hamilton here? 5 laps left to go. Is in the turbulent air as well. Reckon it will go down to the wire in the Drivers' Championship. Me too. With Hamilton winning by a point. What do you think will happen in the Drivers and Constructors? I definitely think it's going to go down to the wire. Like, you can just see how close these two are in every single race. Like, Hamilton still trying to gain on Verstappen. I think if Hamilton can get within DRS, this gets very interesting. But it is a very big if, with 5 laps of this race left to go. Lewis Hamilton going down the hill, trying to gain on Verstappen as much as he possibly can through turns 4, 5, and 6. Very nice little flowing part of the track there, isn't it, in Austin? Here we go then. Carlos Sainz goes to the left. Valtteri Bottas has a little look, but not quite enough. Hamilton actually still with fastest lap of this Grand Prix, so at least will pick up that point, you would imagine, unless Red Bull decide to pit Perez and try and get fastest lap of the race. It would mean that they're going to miss out on some points, though, because Charles Leclerc is within 6 seconds of Perez at this point. Hope Red Bull wins the Constructors. Feel like Perez deserves it more than Bottas, although Bottas has been good in this last 3 races. I think it's going to be very close. I think, unfortunately, Mercedes probably will end up winning the Constructors, but the Drivers' Championship, I have no idea. Hamilton, though, fastest first sector we've seen of anybody. But still not really gaining enough. Oh, we're on board with Sebastian Vettel. Has he managed to get up into 11th place? Yes. Makes it look fairly easy, actually, with that new Mercedes power unit in the Aston Martin. Vettel up into 11th and has to make up 2 seconds on Raikkonen to claim a point for the Aston Martin team. Can he do it in the last 4 seconds? Hamilton is really struggling in this dirty air, you know. I'm not sure that Hamilton is going to be close enough to Verstappen. I'm afraid that this end of the race that we were expecting with them going to wheel. And a little bit of encouragement from the Red Bull pit crew. What a gap between Hamilton and Verstappen. Verstappen's doing really well to just keep Hamilton at arm's length. Hamilton's struggling in the dirty air. Also, I think that Verstappen has probably been holding on to these tyres a little bit. So, Lewis really struggling to get in front and gain any sort of margin. Ooh, Giovinazzi. Oh, Kimi Räikkönen has gone off. And Vettel is up into the points. Wow, okay. Kimi Räikkönen, I don't know what went on, but Kimi Räikkönen's lost himself a point there. And Vettel has been the one to take advantage. Oh, he's completely lost it. Has Kimi Räikkönen, spins around, nearly does a full pirouette, does a 180 and then back on himself. Goes through the gravel, across the grass. And Kimi Räikkönen is now down into 12th place. Sebastian Vettel says, thank you very much, Kimi. Obviously, they used to be teammates at Ferrari, and now Vettel is up into the points. 3 laps left to go then. Hamilton, 1.5 seconds the gap. He was 0.3 faster last lap. Needs more, does Hamilton. Leclerc should pit and go for fastest lap. Yeah, it's not a bad shout, actually. He has got the time. Ricciardo, obviously, quite a considerable amount behind him. I think the problem is you risk it. If Ferrari mess up the stop, then he might end up in that little battle. As we're looking at Bottas, though, again, looking at the back of the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Remember, Carlos Sainz has a little bit of damage on his front wing, on the right part of his front wing. That end plate, I'd imagine, has gone completely off by now because it was just hanging on by a thread. And Valtteri Bottas trying to make it count every single lap. Hamilton, though, gaining and gaining. Now 1.1 seconds behind Verstappen. There's 3 laps left to go. Well, 2 laps and the final sector. And Hamilton needs to get within a second. That is really important. It's crucial that Hamilton gets within a second of Verstappen. Otherwise, he's not going to have the opportunity for the overtake. I'm nervous. I'm getting jittery. Oh, it's going to be so close between Hamilton and Verstappen. I haven't really got a horse in this race. I'm not a Red Bull fan. I'm not a Mercedes fan. But I'd like to see this battle go down to the wire. I want to see what happens between these two. Hamilton, 0.3 of a second faster in that second sector as they come down towards the start-finish line. 1.1 seconds the gap as they go across the start-finish line then. And the first sector, Hamilton needs to make up this time. It's the second sector. Right at the end of the second sector is where the DRS zone is. Hamilton has 2 opportunities at DRS if he can get within a second of Verstappen this lap. I told you that he was going to go all the way to the end. Hamilton being told he's got 2 more laps. He knows that, though, inside the cockpit. Can he get within DRS of him? Oh my goodness me. Lewis Hamilton then. What on earth's gone on? I'm not sure Lewis Hamilton seems to have dropped off massively. What's happened there? Lewis Hamilton's dropped back by like 0.5 of a second to Max Verstappen. Oh my goodness me. And Mick Schumacher, getting told by Verstappen to get out of the way. What is this Haas doing? Blue flags all over the place. Is he going to get out of the way? Finally does. Oh my goodness me. Final lap of this race then. The Haas is out of the way. Verstappen gets some DRS though because of Mick Schumacher. Here we go then. Hamilton is now within a second of Verstappen. Oh my goodness me. Hamilton sets a fastest lap. It's 0.9 of a second between them. Hamilton's going to get one shot of this. down into the final sector. It's going to be down the back straight. It's going to be very close between the two. Fastest sector goes to Verstappen, though. So he's doing absolutely everything he can to keep out of DRS range. Oh my goodness me. Valtteri Bottas has managed to get past Carlos Sainz. My favourite driver is definitely Pierre Gasly, yeah. And favourite team is McLaren. I think Verstappen's going to keep this, you know. Hamilton is not close enough on this back straight. Doesn't get any DRS. And Verstappen's going to hold on to this lead. Goes through the final sector then. It comes down to the final few corners. Verstappen coming round. The left-hander up towards the end of this Grand Prix. Can he hold on to it? 0.9 of a second between him and Hamilton. It is going to be Verstappen. There's 2 corners left to go. Lewis Hamilton still trying to fight every single thing that he can. Although Max Verstappen's going to come around the final corner, sees the checkered flag and takes it. Verstappen with the win. Hamilton second place. Not quite close enough for Lewis Hamilton. He got closer and closer, but never quite got there. Sergio Perez is going to come home in a fairly comfortable 3rd place as well. But Max Verstappen does manage to eke out a victory. Hamilton got ahead in turn 1 of this race. Verstappen went for an early pit stop. Hamilton went late. And it's just about meant that Verstappen can hold on to this victory in front of these American fans. They go absolutely wild. Wow. What a final stint Max Verstappen had to put in there. Some great lap times from him right at the end of this Grand Prix. Sergio Perez comes home in 3rd. As I said, Charles Leclerc is going to come home in 4th. Almost manages to pick up a podium Ferrari, but just not quite. What a good race. Great race there. Some different strategy options. Lots of different racing throughout the field. We saw Ferraris and McLarens going toe-to-toe. We saw lots. We saw Alfa Romeos and Aston Martins going toe-to-toe. Alfa Tauris, Bottas, obviously, coming up towards the end of the race there, managing to get past Carlos Sainz. Didn't actually see that move on Carlos Sainz because we were so focused on Lewis Hamilton. But my goodness me, what a brilliant race. 2021 just keeps on delivering, doesn't it? It was so tense at the end there. I genuinely thought that Lewis Hamilton was going to be right under the rear wing of Verstappen, but Verstappen just found a little bit of time from out of nowhere. On that last lap, Verstappen was the faster car through the 1st sector. So really, really impressive from Verstappen. A wonderful race between us. Thank you everybody for the likes. We're on 45 likes on the stream. Can we bump that up to 50? I feel like we can bump that up to 50, can't we? When people ask us how many we got, we'll tell them 50. But a wonderful little race there. Max Verstappen does indeed come out on top. Will extend his championship lead. And going into the last 5 races, 1 more lap and Lewis would have got him? Yeah, I think so. I think 1 or 2. I don't know, though. Because Hamilton was within DRS there for a little while. But never managed to get it through that 1st sector quick enough to pick up the DRS in the 2nd sector. So it was an awkward one for Hamilton. By far and away the better, or the faster driver in that final stint. But Verstappen was just able to hold on to those tyres for just long enough. There is a really big Red Bull fan base in America, isn't there? I didn't realise that. I suppose that kind of makes sense. Like, Red Bull are quite a global franchise, aren't they? Whereas I feel like Mercedes and those kind of things feel very European. So Hamilton has come around on the team radio. Toto on the radio, a brilliant drive, and just trying to give Hamilton a little bit of positivity going into the next one. giving a like and a sub. Thank you, Charlie, mate. Hope to see you very soon. Obviously, brand new to Formula One, Charlie, and I'm glad you are here and enjoying the content. Hopefully, I can continue to offer something. Super happy, Max, super Max. That is a quality song by the Netherlands. I don't even know who sings it. It's just 3 blokes from the Netherlands. It's quality, absolute quality. Driver of the day ended up also going to Max Verstappen for that defensive drive in the final stint. Runs over to the Red Bull guys in celebration. Another win for Max Verstappen this season. Just looks more comfortable in that Red Bull than ever. And obviously gets a big hug from his dad as well. Lewis Hamilton goes straight over to the scales. A little bit frustrated, I'd imagine, is Lewis. Actually bumps his head on the camera. And then Sergio Perez as well gets 3rd place. Walks over to the Red Bull guys and Max Verstappen. Get to congratulate one another. But it is Max Verstappen who comes out on top again. A really good drive from Charles Leclerc, can we just say. I think a little bit underrated just because he didn't have to battle with anyone at any point. But Max Verstappen with a great drive. Lewis Hamilton with a great drive. But Charles Leclerc, I'm very impressed with. Got a big gap on the McLarens behind him and Carlos Sainz, his teammate, as well. To the point where Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris both dropped out to Bottas. Daniel Ricciardo managed to hold on just in front of Valtteri Bottas. But Charles Leclerc never looked like it was in contention, did it? It never looked like anyone was going to finish 4th apart from him. And just another one of those races for Charles Leclerc where if one of those guys in front of him would have just had a little bit of an issue, or if, Sergio Perez might not have qualified quite as high as he did, could have got another podium for Ferrari. But very impressed nonetheless with Charles Leclerc. He's going to take over his teammate in the Drivers' Championship. Lando Norris had a bit of a nothing race, unfortunately. Our main man, Lando Norris, at McLaren, has dropped off a little bit since Russia. Turkey had a bit of a non-plus race. It makes you wonder if it's had a little bit of a knock on his confidence, that Russian Grand Prix. Although Lewis Hamilton now having a little conversation with the Mercedes team. He'll be disappointed, but he's done incredibly well to get where he was, and he was so close. Mm-hmm. Larry, thanks, was fun to listen to. Great job. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate that, mate. Appreciate that. That's what we try and do. We try and keep it fresh, keep it light. Have a little chat about Formula One. We've got a wonderful little community building up, to be fair. 4,000 subscribers. Oh, Sally said congrats. Thank you, Sally. Yeah, 4,000 subscribers and a lovely little contingent that we've got on the Not Applicable channel. I absolutely love doing these streams. By far and away the best part of my weekend. Especially this late night. It's got a late night feeling to it. I know I'm going to bed like right after this, but it's been nice to have like a full day and then Formula One. You know what I mean? I haven't had to like skip lunch to record Formula One. Can I hear an F1 car sound from you? Like what? An F1 car sound. Depends, right? Are they on a straight? Are they going around a corner? Are they just firing up? Are they on the... There's a lot of different Formula 1 car sounds, so I feel like you need to be more specific. Definitely not a cop-out from me. We are, though, moving on to Mexico in a couple of weeks' time. So Mexico, no Grand Prix next weekend, unfortunately. Boo. Although it does give the teams an opportunity to have a little bit of a rest and for us to calm down a little bit. There is an esports pro championship event, though. So we might have like a little Twitch stream or something whilst that pro championship event is going on. But the next race is Mexico, and it is the 5th of November. I think it's the Friday. Then 6th qualifying, and 7 o'clock will be the race. So a couple of weeks until Mexico. Off the top of my... Actually, I'll just get it up. Off the top of my head, I think qualifying is at 8, and the race is at 7 UK time. So GMT, yeah, it is indeed. So 8 o'clock qualifying, so I'll be live from 7:30 for qualifying. And, of course, the race on Sunday, the 7th of November, on is at 7 o'clock as well. Yeah, so I'll be live from 6:30. Then we've got Brazil and Qatar, so a bit of a triple header there. And of course, Qatar is the birthday stream. So get yourselves a party hat and some streamers, maybe a balloon or two, because Qatar is going to be the birthday stream. And on the 21st of November. What time is that? It's a midday race as well. So 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Qatar. And we might have more of an idea of who's going to win this championship by Qatar, because it is round 20 of 22. So Mexico, Brazil, and Qatar back to back to back in a couple of weeks' time. But I'm going to leave you all there. It's been wonderful. You guys have been a pleasure to have a little chat with. Thank you so much for 4,000 subscribers. I cannot explain how much that means to me. Like, I genuinely don't have the words. If some of you guys have been here since like 1,000 subscribers, and you know the pain and torture that I like hammered through to get that first 1,000, and never thought that like I would anywhere near 4,000. So it's just an absolute dream. Leave a like, subscribe. There's links to my Twitter, Instagram down below. I'm very active on there. If you want to have a chat with me, I always answer my DMs. Specifically on Instagram, I'm a little bit better at getting to DMs, just because Twitter mainly is people just shouting. But hopefully, if you want to get in touch, Instagram is the place to go. If you want to support the stream, you can, of course, super like. There is a link to my Patreon down in the description with a few Patreon videos now that are completely bespoke to Patreon. So there's a few videos on there that if you want to watch, they are only for Patreon supporters. But you only have to pay once, about £4, and you've got all those videos accessible to you on Patreon. And of course, a link to Freetrade down in the description below. So if you want to get involved on Freetrade, if you want a free stock worth up to £200 and to support the stream, there is a link to that as well. All that good stuff, as I said, in the description below. Max Verstappen, though, moves into the lead by 12 points now. That is a good lead to take into 5 races. Of course, if he can get himself 26 points ahead of Hamilton, then he has got a race buffer. So 12 points is a good margin to have moving into the triple header, Mexico, Brazil, Qatar, that we're moving into in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you all so much for watching. We hit 50 likes on the stream. Thank you guys so much. I love that so much. That is amazing. As I said, thank you again. I'm just going to keep saying thank you until you believe that I'm very thankful, because I'm massively thankful. Thank you again, and I will see you next time.